Today is the third day of the February-March 1983 7-day retreat. We don't have a koan today because we will talk about this strong sense of self, this strong feeling of me, which is within every human being. We'll try to look at it. See if we can find out something about it as we talk and listen here together. I think it's undeniable that within each human being there is this strong, real sense of a separate entity, a separate something or other, which we refer to in this language as me, or I, or the self. We mention it all the time. We point out that it is images and thoughts. But then just to say this me is just images and thoughts, does that help? Does that dislodge this real solid sense of there being someone there? At least right now, all ideas about this being images and thoughts aside, and enter into the feeling of it. The feeling that there, here on this cushion, is sitting someone who is separate from everyone else, not only in this room, but from all other people. Also separate from the trees, the mountains, the lake. Separate. Where does this sense come from? Why do we have this feeling? Maybe the first response to this would be, well, there is this body here, and that's mine. It's my body. There is a body here. There are 41 bodies here. About half of them male, the other half female. All different ages, different hair color, eye color, different places of birth. And yet, everyone shares the same physical heritage. We have the same cells, the same blood, unless there's sickness in one person, and we share sickness too. Sickness. We have the same biological heritage, and we're all conditioned. You may be differently conditioned due to your place of birth from the way I was conditioned, but we're both conditioned. And if we scrutinize, look very closely at the conditioning, it's not so very different. We were both born of parents. We were both little babies, children, and so forth. And yet there's this feeling, this is my body. I associate the sense of me with this body. What if you lost a leg? Well, there would still be the feeling of me without this leg. What if you were about to die? And you knew it. You were told by the doctors that you're going to die. But there still be this feeling of me now having to die and having to leave this body. There's a lot of things we've heard all our life about having a soul. In each tradition and culture, these stories are a little bit different, but there's something there within us that survives. You'll move to a different place, hopefully a more pleasant one, or into another body in another lifetime. So even though there is this body right now, it is a temporary thing. And there's ownership of this body. I own it. It's mine. One studies the slightest bit what goes on in the human body, different levels of scientific inquiry, becomes mind-boggling. One doesn't even know all the things that are happening, and one could never take charge of this. So this ownership has nothing to do with responsibility for the functioning of it. Where that responsibility lies, or where that comes from, we don't bother to think much about, or else we attribute it to an outside agency like a God or Mother Nature. In addition to the feeling of this me being associated with a body, the me has feelings. The me generates feelings. And sensations. Someone hits me, I feel pain. It's my pain. The sensation is mine. And the anger that wells up against the person who hit me is my anger. My frustration. Generated from this me, as it seems, are feelings of tenderness, lovingness, and there too the feeling, I am tender, I am loving. It's me. Feelings of violence and cruelty come up. One may not say I am violent or cruel, but when I have inherited it, maybe from way back from the animal. So certain sensations and feelings one disowns. Others are me. Also generated by this feeling of me are fears about what is going to happen to me in the future. Will I survive? Will I survive a war? Will I be happy? Will I find my ideal lover? Will I become great and famous? Will I have a lot of money? And the fear that I may not have that. Uncertainty about the future. Out of this me, this feeling of me, comes a tremendous need to be loved, to be taken care of, to be cared for, to be attended to, forever. One uses these words, I need to be loved, but this may be a misnomer. It may be better described as what has just been described, being given things, being attended to, being made something of, someone worrying about me. Someone taking responsibility for me. Seems to be no end to this desire, to this need for being loved. No matter how much attention or care may come our way, it is bottomless. So there is something in this need that is unfulfillable. A feeling of emptiness about it, gnawing emptiness, certain hunger or thirst, and constant scanning for something to fulfill that. Which always proves impossible or futile because the emptiness, the gnawingness, the discontent perseveres. To allay these feelings of discontent and emptiness, one seeks attachment and attaches oneself to things and people, which then become the me. It starts with little children. All of a sudden the toys are me. Someone takes the toy away and it is as though the child had lost part of himself. I remember one little girl who didn't name her toys, but she said, this is a my, and this is a my, and this is a my. One time, our son was a little toddler playing in the garage. The garage door was open, and then the wind blew open the door to the backyard, and a tremendous draft blew through the garage. I was up in the kitchen doing something. I heard him screaming, so I ran into the garage, and here he was standing, holding on to all that his two little arms could hold on to. Rags, rugs, old papers, cans. Crying because, in spite of all of that, a lot of it had blown away. Was it already part of him? when one gets married or starts living together, these tendencies start clashing very quickly. My things versus your things in terms of neatness. It's all right if my things lie around, but I want your things out of the way. And the spouse or the partner will tenaciously insist that these are his or her things, not to be touched by the other. All right, I'll throw something away if you throw some of your things away. I remember trying to throw things away that my husband had brought. He seemed to cling to everything. He told me I didn't see what I was clinging to. One time I grabbed a whole bunch of old magazines and things, put them on the bottom of the garbage can so he wouldn't find them. But I hadn't thought far enough, because when dumping that garbage can outside, he dumped it upside down, and right on top were all his magazines and things, and he was hurt. And rightly so. I hadn't even asked him. And that little battle is still going on. Probably the more one feels attacked or expected to throw, the more one identifies with these things. Identification. We mention it many times. One cannot mention it often enough. All the things, ideas, groups, ideology, religion, that become the larger me. One may say, I have overcome the me. I am now just working for such and such a group or for my church. But is this church other than the me? It is mine. And all its objectives or its growth, its prospering, its income is now, I'm now identified with. My country, maybe the most dangerous identification next to my religion. Because we're willing to go to war or to give our life for my country or my religion. This me, this my, is common to all of us. Do you see that? Do you see that in that you are no different from me? The me that's operating in you in all the various ways which are observable by each one is the me that's operating here and here and here and there. Across the continent, across the ocean, everywhere. And the way the me is operating is me first. Either for this body and person, or for what I'm identified with. And do you also see very clearly that with this we're on a sure collision course with each other? Because two me firsts don't go together. Let alone 4 billion or however many human beings there are right now. seems so real because it has a will. After all, there's a will there. I can achieve something. I can become somebody. And this is also one of the great drives and compulsions of the me, to be somebody and to become somebody. To aggrandize itself, to feel itself more thoroughly, more importantly. To become somebody in one's own eyes, in the eyes of one's parents, and in the eyes of others. With this urge, this drive, this compulsion to become somebody, goes the fear that one may not become somebody. With this tremendous need to be someone, to be of importance,
tremendous need
to be respected, goes the fear of not being considered important, of being slighted. Being slighted, one feels hurt and angry. There comes the urge to retaliate or to defend, to strike out. We mentioned earlier this tremendous need of this me to be loved. I don't want to use this word. To be cared for, to be given infinite, unending attention. If one cannot be cared for and, quote, loved, then there may be the urge to be feared. To be feared, to be followed, to be obeyed, to be adulated. Which is this drive for power over people. Where does this all come from? Why is this so? What is this feeling of me? You hold still, just watch, look, observe, or attend. Without using will to get someplace or to be someone, just looking. There may be, again, a bottomless feeling of loneliness. Not just feeling, but ache of loneliness. Pain of loneliness. Is this what gives the cause, gives the incentive to attach, to buy, to own, to become? The fear of this ache of loneliness? comes up during the sitting, in a retreat such as this, what does one do? Again, go out for thinking what one could be, where one could be, with whom one could be. Let's take that as feeling of loneliness. As sort of an unbearable ache there. And then the thought of someone one has been with before, with whom one has had good times, pleasure, the pleasure of sexual touch. So, the thought of this person, the image of this person arises in the mind. Then what happens? Does it come and go, or does one see oneself with that person? With all the pleasure that went on before, or adding some more in one's fantasy. And then this arousal of a great desire to be with this person. Or one may think of food. Sometimes talk about this before a meal. The stomach is empty, the blood sugar is low, that's a fact. And then the thought of food. And then seeing oneself eating that food. Sort of wallowing in it. And then a tremendous urge to get it. Yeah, all systems are go then. To eat, to have sex, to hike in the mountains, to swim in a lake, or to ski. All away from this loneliness. From the pain of it. From the pain of being no one and with no one. Is that a characteristic, an intrinsic characteristic of the me to be lonely? What comes to mind is an ancient Indian legend about the creation of the world. I may not quote it properly, but something stuck in the mind. That in the beginning there was the I. Not the I that sees, but the I, capital I, the me. And the first thing the I did is say, I am me. Astute observation. And then it looked around. And then it was afraid. Because there was no one there. And then it divided itself. In this case, into male and female, and the two united. And then there came more little eyes. That was added. So in the beginning, there's just someone sitting here. And then the thought, this is me. And then looking around and feeling lonely. The fear, I mentioned fear of loneliness. How would it be if we didn't say I? We've tried it. One can make a practice out of that. Start contorting the language so one will not say I under any circumstances, or me. But the loneliness persists. So that trick doesn't work, even though it does something. When one notices, one realizes how often one uses it. I may say, you're doing the same thing, you're saying one all the time instead of I. It's helpful, because this sort of depersonalizes it and generalizes it for everyone. Part of this functioning of the me is to take everything personal. We started with a saying, these are my sensations, my body, my feelings, my thoughts. Who owns them? Whose are they? You say mine, and you say there is somebody here. It feels so solid, so real. Thinking about it a bit, you may say there is a thinker. I am the thinker, and I am thinking these thoughts. But you were thinking to come upon the thinker, weren't you? You may find out that the thinker is thinking. When there's no thinking, there's no thinker. You say, well, there's thinking all the time, so therefore there must be a thinker. I wouldn't assume anything. But I would watch very carefully. We talked before about being slighted. Someone slights you, does you injustice. You're not being treated fairly. And you're hurt, you're smart. What is it that hurts? What is it that's smart?
Hurt.
You say, well, I have these feelings of hurt. These feelings come from me. Well, what is the me? What is this me? Do you have an idea, an image about how you should be treated? How you should be regarded or respected, talked to? An image of who you are? And is it that image that hurts and smarts? Or that gives rise to that hurt? Because supposing you had no image of who you were, really, you had no image, no idea of who you were, who you are. Somebody calls you a bad name, a wop or a kraut, but you have no idea, you have no identification, you have no attachment. You're not invested in any nationality or group or cause, not identified with anything. Would you hurt? Would there be anger? Would you lash out?
Anger. Lash out.
You have an image that you've just given a very fine talk. Someone says,
Very
I didn't get a word you said. It was so confused and so confusing and unclear. Do I get hurt? I'm identified with this talk. I will, but I'm not. If you say that, I'll listen. If I think I'm a good talker, I will defend that, or I will recoil. Then there'll be an ache. Because I have an image of myself as being a good talker, and that's hurt. Or you come up and say, it was a wonderful talk. Remember singing in a church. You used to sing Sundays in a church as a soloist. And afterwards, you expect it. And it happens, people come up to you and say, your solo was wonderful this morning. You're just waiting for it. It's like a dry sponge, you soak it all up.
It's like a dry sponge.
Particularly if it wasn't quite good. Voice cracked a few times. There was shakiness in the beginning, you were so excited. Would it come out?
In the beginning, we're so
People say, you were wonderful. And you feel so good. And you like those people who say that. People who stay away from you and don't tell you, It's really incredible how we live. We gravitate toward the people who make us feel good, who tell us we're terrific.
About the people who make us.
And the people who don't do that, we also form images of.
Don't do that.
Stay away from them.
Also
Or
form
speak badly
images of.
about them.
We stay away from them.
Try
Or
to
speak
sort of
badly about them.
hit back in one way or
Try
another.
to hit back in one way or another.
Actually, flattery is incredibly dangerous. Just being
Flattery is
vulnerable,
dangerous.
susceptible to flattery.
Susceptible to flattery.
Because it's so blinding. Somebody could just be exploiting you.
So
Flatter you in order that
Just
you
be
think well of
exploiting
this person. Which happens
Flatter
all the time.
that you think well of this person. Which
Power, politics. On the small level, on the tiny level, the medium-sized level, and the big level. Flattery
Size
in
level.
order to get places,
flattery in
to
order
endear oneself to a
Get
person,
places.
and to get a position,
to endear oneself to a person.
to get money, to get something.
To get something.
So one must watch very, very, very carefully
So
about reaction to flattery.
very carefully about reaction to flattery.
It may not be flattery. A person may say something that is so.
It may not be flattery. A person may say something that's so.
One may take it as flattery because one is so hungry for being
One may
confirmed,
take it as
acknowledged,
Because one is
made something of.
being confirmed, acknowledged.
Or the person may flatter to get places with
Or
you.
the person may flatter to get with you.
If there's not attention, if there's not
If
real
there's not
careful
attention,
watching of this
there's
process
not
of
real careful
flattery and then
this process
having a favorable image of
of
this person who
flattery and
flattered
then
you,
having a favorable
you're going to
image
be
of the person who
deceived
flattered
and
you.
deceived.
You're going to be deceived and deceived.
There's no image of yourself as anybody. You can neither be flattered
Yourself as
nor hurt.
anybody.
You will see
You can
clearly.
neither be flattered nor hurt. We'll see clearly.
Not deceive yourself and not deceive others.
Deceive yourself and not deceive others.
Is it possible? With all the images we do
Is it
have of
possible?
ourselves,
With all the images we do have of ourselves,
is it possible to see them?
possible to see them?
You do see them, or you can see them. They will reveal
You do
themselves
see them.
at precisely
Or you
such
can
moments.
see them. They will reveal themselves at precisely such moments. Moment of insult
Those
or
are
flattery.
moments to attend to with particular care.
So those are the moments to attend to with particular care and energy.
And these are the moments at which
These are the moments at
flares
which
up into
division flares up into
an angry encounter,
angry,
revenge and so forth.
angry encounter, revenge, and so forth.
Or whether me just aggrandizes itself.
Or whether me just aggrandizes itself.
Seeking out the people who are flattering.
Seeking out the people who are flattering.
In words or
either flattering
in deeds.
in words or in deeds.
You say, I see the danger of this me.
You say,
the obstacle of it.
The danger of this me, the obstacle of it.
Struggle.
That it is the source
within
of
struggle among people.
Struggle. Within struggle among people and among countries.
I can see that.
What can I do about it?
I must be done with it.
See that I must get rid of it.
Destroy it.
I must be done with it. Drop it. Destroy it.
Where do these thoughts come from?
Where do these thoughts come from?
The clarity of seeing, or is this the me?
Do they come out of the clarity of seeing, or is this the me wanting to be not me, which is a superior kind of a me?
We take all kinds of vows, make all kinds of resolutions to be selfless.
We take all kinds of vows, make all kinds of resolutions to be selfless, not to be greedy, not to be angry,
not to have sex to be chaste,
not to have sex to be
me
chaste.
with its cravings, with its deep sense of loneliness persists.
And me with its cravings, with its deep sense of loneliness persists.
Now with the added function of constantly repressing.
Now with the added function of constantly repressing. What doesn't fit the new image.
What has been acquired is a new image. An old one substituted
What has been acquired is a new image.
Pure.
An old one substituted with a new one that is pure. Pure of all these defilements, whatever you may call it.
What will bring about seeing of this?
What will bring about seeing of this me?
Not the repression of it, not the substitution of one image for another.
Not the repression of it, not the substitution of one image for another, but the seeing of all images at one glance.
I don't know if there's any way
I don't know.
to bring this about.
I don't know if there's any way to bring this about.
Sitting here
Sitting here
on a mat,
on a mat,
inhalation and exhalation.
experiencing inhalation and exhalation.
There, wondering whether I'm making progress.
Is the me there, wondering whether I'm making progress, whether I'm doing well or poorly? Can you see that? You do. You report it. This constant judging and evaluating.
The instant it comes into awareness,
The instant it comes into awareness,
any evaluation.
can there just be breathing without any evaluation?
No one standing outside of it.
With no one doing it? No one standing outside of it? Find out. Try it.
Sitting on the mat, questioning who or
Sitting on the mat, questioning who or who am I?
and comparing oneself with others. Am I doing as well?
So when comparing oneself with others, am I doing as well? Am I getting as deeply?
Like others have?
Will I get through like others have? That's the me in action. Is this inevitable? Is this unavoidable? It can be seen. It can be heard. There's an inner voice often.
Who? Who's saying?
Who?
Who's comparing?
Who? Who's saying it? Who is comparing? Who is thinking?
Who is wanting? Who?
Who is wanting? Who?
Can one always start freshly
plunging into this who,
after having woken up to the fact that there has been comparison and evaluation,
after having woken up to the fact that there has been comparison and evaluation and judgment, the moment you wake up to that fact, it's already done, it's already finished. Whew. Sitting on the mat, questioning more. What is more? It's the same thing. Is there someone evaluating and judging? Someone with an eye out on a goal to be attained? That's the me, and that is division. Because me invariably creates division. Or is it just more? Not knowing who one is, not knowing who is asking, not knowing which way to go, not knowing. Just who or mu or the breathing or attending. At a loss of knowing who it is that is doing it. There may just be the doing. There may be no division. But you can't bring it about. That's the me wanting to bring something about. But you can question into it. You can ask from the bottom of your heart, who or mu, and not know the answer. And not know how you're doing. Can you do it? Just as you are, not knowing what you are or how you are, questioning or attending. With no split. Listen. We'll end here for today.